Well, all right, my friends. Welcome to 120 Months. My name is David Parsons. I'm here with my good friend John Lombardo. We are listening to music from the 1990s. It is August 1991. We already did part one. This is part two of a month that has a lot of music, and I'll tell you that September has even more. I think there's going to be 3 parts to September 91. It is raining music, a lot of rock and roll. This episode, this conversation we're about to have is about 4 different albums. And I'll say this just at the outset, John. I felt like these 4 albums really represented 4 very different takes on what is rock and roll, particularly in the 90s.
For sure.
They're all really different.
They're very different, yeah.
So you want to get started?
Let's do it.
So our first album is called Mr. Bungle. It is the debut studio album, self-titled, by an experimental rock band called Mr. Bungle. They're a project, I think kind of a side project in some way, off of Faith No More, but the band that is fronted by Mike Patton, and he is an instrumental figure in this band, in both bands. But this is I feel like Mr. Bungle is his project where he gets to do whatever he wants, and you can really hear that on this album.
Well, Mr. Bungle predates Faith No More.
Really?
Oh yeah.
This is their high school band, right?
They were a high school band, yeah. And they'd been goofing around for years. They used to practice in a chicken coop. Like there's
that somehow makes a lot of sense
weird,
when you hear this music.
Weird kids in Eureka just wanting to have something to do. So they were a band for a long time, and because they had made all this weird music that got them some recognition up in the Bay Area, when Faith No More already had a record deal and had another singer, I forget the guy's name, but that guy left. Do you remember the song "We Care a Lot"? Dun, 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 dun,
oh
dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah.
Dun. We Care. That was like their first minor hit song in the '80s, and there was a different singer on that song. And then, as I'm recalling,
yeah,
and then they asked Mike Patton to come audition. The guys in Mr. Bungle went to his audition with him for Faith No More,
and they just didn't make it.
No, they weren't up for only he was up for the gig.
Okay,
but he's like, "You guys want to go
went with him?" Yeah,
they went with him to the audition, and he said he felt safer having his buddies with him, and he went and auditioned. And he got the gig, and the reason the Mr. Bungle is on Warner Brothers now is that Warner Brothers was trying to keep Mike Patton happy because he was in Faith No More, and they had another hit single with. It's called The Real Thing. No, that's the name of the album, right? What's that song called? You want it all, but you can't have it. So that was a hit song.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Mike Patton's semi-celebrity status in Faith No More that got Bungle onto the major labels. And
that song is called Epic.
Epic, that's right.
So how would you describe the sound of this album? Because I you know what I was reminded of, weirdly enough? You remember when we listened to that Cherry Poppin' Daddies album, Ferociously Stoned?
Yes.
And we were both surprised that it was sort of like, it was ska, but it was also all over the place. It had a lot, they were like going for a lot. I feel like this album is kind of like that. This feels like you're in some sort of like crazy carnival the whole time.
The carnival feel, yeah. I would describe the record. You can't describe it musically because it's all over the place. I would describe it as a soundtrack to a terrible acid trip.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's very. There's a lot of tension, a lot of strangeness. I also wonder, the guys in the band, they're good.
Yeah.
Like they're trained. I think Mike Patton said that it's Trevor and Trey, at least, and probably they're like school jazz guys.
You get that feeling. Like,
they are.
While I was listening to it, I was like, this sounds like extremely talented, insane people making music.
And there are people like this, Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Captain Beefheart. People who are just doing this mishmash of madness, no ideas thrown away. And they're trying to they're certainly not writing songs in a pop structure. They're
no.
every
I don't know
song,
if any of these songs were on the radio.
No.
How could they be?
Every song is a voyage,
Yeah.
And before the whole Faith No More thing, they were trying to get recognition as a metal band because they have that component, but they also do these bizarre. I mean, they do everything. They do ska, jazz, weird shit,
International shit.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it sounds like we're listening to Middle Eastern music or Chinese music. Like it's just like takes you on this journey, but it never the songs never feel like they're one thing. They just sort of like it's I think I like your acid trip metaphor, but it's also like kind of like listening to a radio station or mini radio stations where you're like clicking around the dial. Yeah. It's insane.
Every song is a voyage.
Yes.
You know, and they're not really even songs. And one of the things,
compositions.
So I was never a Mike Patton fan. It's not that he's a very interesting singer. He's an interesting artist, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like when he does all this goofy stuff, right? But when he gets into singing, he falls too much into like this bizarre Axl Rose, this nasal weird thing and it's a little bit grating to my ears. It's just not my thing.
Well, a lot of this is grating, and it's almost intentionally so, I feel like.
But it is a feat to write the lyrics to songs like this. And he does a pretty good job of writing lyrics and finding some melodies and stuff amidst what is just pure musical chaos by design. They're intending that. But I wonder, as I listen to the record, I'll tell you something that I wondered a lot. Is this composed? Are they reading sheet music? How do you remember a 9-minute long song that has all this weird changes?
You mentioned Captain Beefheart and that famous album of his Trout Mask Replica, which is I think probably one of the more infamous avant-garde rock compositions of all time. That was intricately composed. Even though when you listen to it, you're like, this sounds like just a bunch of guys got in a room with their instruments and threw them against the wall for a while. They had to learn that. It was something that Captain Beefheart himself had put together, note by note, essentially.
That's what I wonder about this. Like, did they? And I think Zappa did that sometimes too.
Yeah.
But like, what did they compose this, or is it more like is it like improv comedy? You know, I did.
It feels like it would have to be composed, honestly. Yeah. Listening to it, it feels like maybe different parts were stitched together, but it does feel like there's a method to the madness.
I did an improvisational comedy show for years in Vegas, and what we did every night, we just had like, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. Well, we didn't know how we were going to get there. Every night it was different.
Interesting. So like tent poles that kind of keep you goals to
right.
Yeah.
Bullet points. This needs at this time. This happens here. So it was a 2-hour show with like 3 pages of script. You know,
right.
I wonder if that's how they did this. Like, okay, this time at some point we got to get into this weird space shit. It just doesn't, but I agree with you. It doesn't seem like you could do that. It seems like it has to be composed.
Yeah.
And Mike says that he is totally non-musical in terms of training, and he's just some guy who
he's just a weirdo.
You said Let's talk about the Kiedis thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, his voice sounds very influential in some respects, in the sense of, and Anthony Kiedis is going to say that he ripped him off.
Influential or influenced?
Both. Because, okay, like, is it Jonathan Davis from Korn?
Yeah.
Sounds like Korn to me, and I think that he cites one of the songs on this album. Like Jonathan Davis is like, that's Korn's sound. The song "Love Is a Fist." He was like, Korn drew our sound and inspiration partly from that song.
Interesting.
Which makes sense when you listen to it. That's sort of like, I don't know. You've got that kind of like pulverizing rhythmic electric guitars alongside like a wild lead singer who's doing a lot of like voice, shaky voice shit, cracking voice, cartoon voice, like.
System of a Down has a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and actually, Mike Patton, I was reading his friends with Serge Tankian from System of a Down, and I was like, listening to this album, I was like, oh, here's System of a Down. So the Anthony Kiedis thing is these guys have been in a beef for about 30 years. Like, they hate each other. And what's funny is, as much as I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I'm a Chili Peppers fan for sure, I mean, they're ripe for parody, like 100%. Like, it's very easy to make fun of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Especially Anthony.
Especially him. Yeah. But Mike Patton, has, whenever I see his takes on Kiedis, his takes on Chili Peppers, I always take his side because I just enjoy Mike Patton as a personality. I feel like he's sort of an American treasure within the world of rock and roll because he's just a pure he's like a pure curmudgeon. He hates everything. He goes after any sacred cow. He clearly doesn't give a fuck about offending anybody.
I saw Mr. Bungle.
Okay.
Probably in 1992. They opened for Primus. I saw him up in Berkeley, and he urinated in his shoe and drank it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you telling me someone else that did that? Maybe it was...
I probably mentioned that.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely him.
It was Mike Patton?
Yeah. I was never at a G.G. Allen show.
Yeah. So. And G.G. Allen's probably going to have some albums out on this list at some point.
Wow.
He'll make an appearance.
So
yeah.
I gotta say something though.
Yes.
I'm not taking sides in the battle. Although I will tell you, we'll talk about the Chili Peppers plenty in this decade. I used to go see them all the time in the 80s, and I was a big Chili Peppers fan when they were, so when I saw the video for Epic, I went, oh, this fucking guy wishes he was Anthony Kiedis.
Yeah, I think
the way
that's
his
what
hair was
started
the
Kiedis'
long hair hanging to the side, no shirt,
Mm-hmm.
shorts, and the way he jumped around.
Yeah.
He did, and the band was kind of doing this sort of funk rock thing. Except
Totally.
Faith No More had like that heavy synth thing.
If you watch that video, it feels like you're in a Bizarro World Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Video.
I did think that when I saw them, and as such, immediately dismissed them as anything I was interested in.
Yeah.
I was not interested in imitations of things, you know?
Mike Patton's just fucking hilarious. Like there's several viral videos of him because of just being an absolute like shameless hater of all sorts of people. They ask him what he thinks of Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl. He's like, oh, what a pile of shit that band is. Dave Grohl should have quit after Nirvana. He wanted to dance around with a guitar on stage. How fucking embarrassing. There's a great clip of him at a festival where he's listening to Wolfmother, the band. You remember the band Wolfmother?
Sure, I do.
And he's just like, what the fuck is this? He's like, he stops the interview to be like, what is going on? He's like, and they're like, oh, that's a band called Wolfmother. And he's just like, what year is it? Wolfmother, whoever you are, you fucking suck. Like, he just is, he's himself. And there's something really refreshing about that. He doesn't think about, any kind of like sort of public image beyond saying what he wants to say.
Yeah, he's a very regular guy.
Yeah.
And and I think that he reminds me of other band. We used to tour all over the place, and he's very Northern Californian.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
He's from Eureka.
I could see that.
So the Bay Area is like that's where, in San Francisco, Faith No More is from San Francisco. Metallica would be considered I don't know if they can.
Like a Bay Area band.
But on the outskirts, all those little, Humboldt, Eureka, all those places around it, they very much, it's very much like the way Ventura's relationship to Los Angeles.
Yeah, or upstate New York.
They eschew that.
Yes.
They're like, no, we're not part of that whole thing. It's very down to earth. It's very no bullshit. And I think that you can really see that in Mr. Bungle. They don't fucking care what you think. I many times I thought this is like this is now a bunch of guys amusing one another. They don't give a fuck about the audience. They're not. This is not music that's even made to be listened to. It isn't. It's just this is what we want to do, and we'll throw it out there and see what people.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's a sort of it's like an outcast region in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then you sort of have this weird relationship to the city people that I feel is definitely in Ventura. But up in Northern California, it's a lot of like, I don't know, it's kind of methy and kind of working class and kind of, there's a rough edge to it.
It's not unlike the feel of Seattle. It's a lot of flannel shirts and
cold up there.
Woods, fog.
It's the California that the rest of the country doesn't think about.
And there's little penchant for bullshit there.
Right.
It's very a lot of weeds being smoked.
Yeah.
And ingested. And I used to love playing up there. I love the area. California is so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Because it's like 8 different countries.
Right.
I went and played this show in Stockton. And I drove from, I happened to be driving from Laguna Beach, to Stockton.
Right.
and I went through 3 different planets.
Oh, yeah.
I went from Laguna Beach, which is like this beautiful, gorgeous beach and super expensive restaurants and, you know, the poshest of the posh. And within like probably 5 hours later on my drive, I was driving through cornfields with big billboards. Jesus is coming. Get ready.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's just so different.
Yeah, it's not the same place at all.
And so, but these guys
This is partly why the Gavin Newsom wants to redistrict the state, because it's like it's so many different areas that there's like red states within the blue state of California.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these guys, Mr. Bungle, sometimes they're fucking great.
Yeah.
Like there are moments on this record.
Definitely. This made me laugh. I didn't hate this at all.
There is a humor on display.
Yeah.
There is. And sometimes it's a little childish humor, you know? But like there's a song on here called My Ass Is on Fire.
Yes.
And it's super heavy and it's got a great vibe to it. And then but at the end he yells, "It's not funny. My ass is on fire." And I started laughing. I felt like Mike was in the car next to me going, "No, dude, it's not funny.
Right.
My ass is on fire." And I was like cracking
They sound
up.
like Primus that way. You know what I mean? Where you listen to Primus and it's you say before we were recording, you said that you saw them.
I saw them
Primus.
open for Primus.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like they're both kind of like frantic energy, really talented dudes, but they're playing weird shit.
Saw themselves as outsiders too.
Yeah.
Primus is more of a definable thing. And I think that's a strength for them. Like if I would definitely call Primus a more impressive project.
They probably have more fans. Like Mr. Bungle seems like a very niche thing.
Yeah.
Like who's into this?
But like I said, it's not music that's made to be listened to by people. They didn't, you know, there's nothing on this song, there's nothing on this album that could ever be on the radio.
And yet it's clear that people in the 90s, other bands, whether it be Korn or System of a Down or maybe even Red Hot Chili Peppers, like listen to this and were like, sort of like, oh.
Musicians
like there's something I can take from this.
It's like Zappa.
Yeah.
Mostly it's musicians who are into Zappa.
You know what it reminds me of? You heard of the term, like the comedian? Like the ones that like Patrice O'Neill or a million others. Norm Macdonald is kind of in this category where they never really had a career, you know, but like other comedians fucking love them and think they're like the greatest, funniest guys in the world. Like that's what Mr. Bungle is. They're like the like rock band in some ways. You know what I mean? That, like, especially the weird rock bands.
Like I think they're more of a musician in that people who understand music and listen to music can probably really like even though look, I'm never going to listen to this record again.
Right.
But when I was listening to it, I was impressed with the feat of doing it. I was impressed that these guys did it. You know, like
it would be. You may not listen to it again, but if you ever like run like a homemade haunted house out of your garage for like this would be a good soundtrack to
play the
blaring.
song Carousel.
Yeah, right.
It's like Frankenska.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It's just this. It's
worth, even if you never hear it again, I think it's worth listening to once.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean?
When I was young, I'm going to bring this analogy back in. When I was a kid, for years, so I took acid quite a few times until I had a trip that I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
I think a lot of people have that experience.
But I believed for a long time, everyone should do acid once.
Right.
The first time I took acid, my perspective on the world was changed.
Sure.
In a way that I would say expansively.
Yeah. And it lasts forever in a way.
And everybody should listen to Mr. Bungle once.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I mean, I have always appreciated. I probably lean on this metaphor too much, honestly. The idea that art can be like a drug experience, right?
For sure.
Whether it be a painting or a piece of music or a film or whatever, it can transform your consciousness and make you feel like you see things differently.
Often there's not one without the other.
Right,
well,
exactly.
You tell the story about them doing the Chili Peppers show.
Oh, yeah. So Mike Patton and Mr. Bungle did a show on Halloween in 1999, which I think Californication had just come out. And they covered a whole bunch of Red Hot Chili Peppers songs. They were dressed as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they were doing it all really, really like mocking them, tongue in cheek. The guitar player or maybe the bass player, one of those guys, one of the band was dressed as Hillel Slovak's ghost, which is so fucking offensive and insane. And it was clear that they were like throwing their middle finger up to the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And you said Anthony was not.
And Anthony was not happy about it and was humorless about it, which is not surprising, perhaps. But yeah, this is, if you look online, there's YouTube videos, etc. This is one of the more, like, bigger beefs in rock and roll in the 90s and 2000s, is the hatred between Mike Patton and Anthony Kiedis. And it's hilarious.
I had no idea. I watched an interview with Mike Patton in the lead up to the show, and someone in the YouTube comments said, Anthony Kiedis is in here with all 75 of his fake accounts thumbs downing this interview.
Right.
And I was like, why would they say that? I didn't even get it.
Exactly.
Where did they do that show? Do you know?
That's a good question.
Let me tell you why I'm asking.
Yeah.
In probably 1988, I went to see Jane's Addiction at the John Anson Ford Theater in Los Angeles. And this is an outdoor venue. If you don't know Los Angeles, this is an outdoor venue. And a band opened for them called Pygmy Love Circus. And they had a song.
That's a great name for a band.
They had a song called, so this stage is like, the seats sort of go up in these rows. It's not like, there is a standing area but it is a theater, really. You know? There's a standing area in the front. So all these people are up in these things, and the stage is down here, right? And this guy, they did this song called Dead Chili Pepper. And he was just, I remember him singing Dead Chili Pepper. And this guy came out dressed like Hillel with a fake needle in his arm and was shaking and dying.
Yeah.
This time, you did not fuck with the Chili Peppers in LA.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people were simultaneously spitting on them.
Oh, they were,
and
so
they were just
offended.
standing there going, and the spit was fucking raining on them. It's one of the grossest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, this show, the Halloween show in '99, was at a place called Clutch Cargo's in Pontiac, Michigan. So just Detroit.
I don't think you would try that in LA. Maybe in '99 you could, but
they were doing. If you watch the video, they're doing the whole needle in the arm thing and everything. It's really fucked up. It's so insane. But again, Mike Patton, and the thing that I find admirable about him is that he doesn't give a shit.
No, he does not give a shit.
And that's cool. And Mr. Bungle, you can hear that in it. So let's move on.
Let's move on. Mr. Bungle.
Goodbye, Mr. Bungle. We'll see you again when we do our haunted house. Okay, so the next album we want to talk about is the third album by an American indie rock band called Sebadoh. This album is called 3, and I think that 3 is in part to note that it's their third album, but also because there are 3 members of this band, and they each contributed sort of equally to the songwriting process.
You know what they did that was really cool?
What did they do?
They color-coded the back of the record. So each song had a color. They had a picture, like Lou Barlow is red, and his songs are in red, and they color-coded it. Isn't that a great idea?
Yeah. So the album it's got like 43 songs on it or something like that.
It actually has 23 songs.
Okay.
And then an extra disc was released in 2006, and it's all mostly Eric Gaffney, one of the other guys in the band. It's mostly his stuff. It's like an extra disc thing.
Okay.
So it had 23 songs.
Okay.
On it.
So this was a journey to go on.
It was.
And it's just like the Mr. Bungle. It's sort of all over the place, but all over the place by song instead of like within single songs. Like each one had its own sort of unity, I feel like, in what they were trying to do. Just to give some context, this band is sort of the leader of this band, I guess, is Lou Barlow, who is the bassist of Dinosaur Jr., kicked out of Dinosaur Jr., and speaking of beefs, all these men that have a lot of anger at each other. You hear that on the first song of this album, which is called Freed Pig,
yeah,
where Lou Barlow is sort of taking out his rage at Jay Mascis. And the lyrics to this song, he says, "You were right. I was battling you, trying to prove myself. I tried to bury you with guilt. I wanted to prove you wrong. I've got nothing better to do than pay too much attention to you. It's sad, but it's not your fault." And it's sort of a raw song.
I think that everybody focuses on that it's this fuck you to Jay Mascis.
Right.
I think it's a very responsible look at what happened.
It's a sort of beautiful song.
He says that some of this is my fault. I'm wasting my time on you. And Lou Barlow now says that some of this Sebadoh material is embarrassing to him because it's so, revelatory. It's so confessional.
Yes.
But he said at the time he needed to do it. And so and it should be said, and I'm a fucking huge Dinosaur Jr. fan.
I know you are.
And I will tell you, the story has a happy ending. I saw Dinosaur Jr. this year, and Lou's back in the band. I saw them again this year, and I've seen them several times. And this year, they sounded great. They were fucking amazing, and it was Lou and Jay and Murph. And
Isn't that amazing?
It's great.
It's like the original guys are back.
But the way they
so
broke
many
up
years
was
later, though. I mean,
right.
This like
they got back together in 2005.
It's so crazy to think that these bands are decades old.
They were they were apart for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
But they were fucking great. Lou sounded great. He sang a song and it was cool. But what Jay did was fucked up. We talked about this
Yes.
when we talked about Green Mind, because that's their first major label album. Jay plays all the instruments on it pretty much because what they did was they got in this huge fight. They hated each other. Jay's kind of almost spectrum-y, I think.
Definitely.
He doesn't talk.
Right.
But Lou is also very withdrawn. So there was not a lot of communication.
And they were young, too. They were in their
young,
20s.
and they're young, and there's not a lot of communication going on between these people. And they're also intensely creative, both of them. And, like, I wondered about this, like, I've got a note in here. I wanted to... it's like... They have communication issues, but I wonder if it's one of those things, like this happens sometimes. This band isn't big enough for the both of us. You know? Like there are bands, The Clash, Indigo Girls. They have these long careers where there's two prominent songwriters and singers that seem to be able to do it. And then you've got, Uncle Tupelo and Dinosaur Jr., where there just doesn't seem to be room for more than one leader. And
well, I would say... Maybe a different way of putting that is there's so much talent in this band that this could be two bands.
Fuck yeah!
I mean? Like,
well, and it should be maybe. I mean,
Right.
obviously Wilco and Sunvolt, but like but it's interesting that you can have two. You can have Jimmy Page and Robert Plant in the same band.
Yeah.
Keith and Mick. Like these two incredibly.
And they couldn't split up.
And
right? Like those bands didn't survive split up. They didn't. I mean, they kind of like when I think about the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger tried to have a solo career in the '80s. Because this is all detailed in a funny way from Keith's point of view in his memoir, in his book Life, because he's like, Mick had a lot of people in the early '80s who were telling him, look, this is an era of pop stars like Michael Jackson. You could be that, you could be, and so
he tried it.
Yeah, he tried it, and
we got Dancing in the Street with David Bowie.
Yeah, we got a lot of shit, and Keith was laughing about it. Keith's like, he thought he was gonna go be something. He like we belong together, more or less, is how Keith saw it. And at some point, they arrange a meeting, like a mafia meeting on a beach somewhere, where Keith and Mick get back together and figure out how to make Rolling Stones albums again.
I remember in the late 80s, I was a teenager, I saw a Rolling Stone cover, and it was them on the cover. And I remember the caption said, it was a quote from Keith. And he said, if Mick tours without this band, I'll slit his throat. And he looked like he could. He looks like a fucking pirate. So
there's another guy that doesn't give a shit.
Not at all. Right. Dude, did you see him win the book award from the British Society of Authors?
No.
Oh, my God. He is in this room. His book, was applauded by critics and won him a lot of praise. And he won this prestigious British Society Award for authors, and he's in this room with all these men in ties and hats and just super proper British, and he's Keith. Right. He got fucking bandanas on and gold chains, and
cigarette
he would have been smoking if he could have been, And they called him up, and he came up and he was kind of giggling, and he stood in front of the mic and he goes, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
It was so great. He's a fucking legend. But so to get back to Sebadoh.
Yeah.
Look, Jay needs to lead Dinosaur Jr. It's him.
Yeah.
It's just so him. And so and now Lou Barlow will tell you, I get that now. I understand it. He's back in my Dinosaur Jr.
Barlow was able to go off and do this in a lot of ways, because I really liked this album. I hadn't heard Sebadoh before. I had friends over the years who had told me to listen to them, and I kind of didn't, I never got around to it. So this was an opportunity to listen to it. It fell into a kind of like, it sounded like a Neil Young record to me.
Oh.
And by that, I mean, not necessarily sounding like Neil Young, but like kind of like the freedom of it. They're sort of doing what they want and recording on their own
No
terms.
ideas turned away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look.
And I like
This
that
is
freak folk sound too. I don't know. You're not as much of a lo-fi guy.
This is like
Yeah.
lo-fi.
Right.
They recorded this album for $1,300. And some of it was done at Fort Apache, which is a famous studio. Sean Slade produced some of it. But you can tell most of this album is these guys in a room with a 4-track and a mic in the room. You know,
Yeah.
like they're just, it's so, and it serves the material.
Yeah.
It's magical. And I wonder how many artists would cite Sebadoh as an influence. I hear, Elliott Smith.
Oh, 100%.
Elliott Smith. I hear even a little bit of like some of the softer stuff that Rivers Cuomo does in Weezer.
Yeah.
I hear Pavement, Stephen Malkmus and Pavement being influenced by this. I would throw Guided by Voices in there too, but they're already making records at this time.
Well, yeah.
But
there's a song called "Spoiled" that is on this Sebadoh record. That's they used it in the soundtrack to the movie Kids. I don't know if you remember that movie Kids, which was like this about skate kids in New York City.
I do. That's not a Sebadoh song. That's Folk Implosion.
No, the Folk Implosion is on that soundtrack, but so is this Sebadoh song "Spoiled."
Oh, okay. So it's not the
right.
one that became a big hit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We'll get to Folk Implosion when it happens.
When it happens, yeah.
That song "Spoiled," released on the Kids soundtrack in '95. It's the film's closing credits, and I played that, and I was remembering sort of, okay, I remember they strike that tone at the end of that movie. It's a very disturbing movie.
It was a disturbing movie,
and it's a lo-fi movie in its own way, and influential in its aesthetic in the same way that Sebadoh's album is. But I was like, this is an Elliott Smith song. It sounds so much like an Elliott Smith song. If you had told me, like, hey, this is like an outtake from an early Elliott Smith record, I could have believed you.
Nobody,
and that's a high compliment.
For sure. And I would be willing to bet anything. I don't know this. I didn't go out and try to research this on the internet, but I would be willing to bet anything that while nobody knows who Sebadoh is, in the world out there, if you asked a bunch of musicians in the '90s if Sebadoh influenced them, they would say fuck yes. Yeah. The way this album's recorded, it's a quintessential '90s album. This would not have happened in any other decade. It's the time when a guy can just sit in his room and talk into a mic and play, and that's like, oh yeah, this will be cool. The '90s was such a revolution against overblown.
Yes,
it was such a withdrawal from all that. This album really fits in it, and I'll tell you something. Just like Mr. Bungle, and this is just the short-sightedness and narrow-mindedness of my thinking when I was a young man, but Dinosaur Jr., I'm aware of this rift. I don't know any of the details. I choose Jay Mascis.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to Sebadoh. I love this record. I really think it's a beautiful record.
I actually, and this sounds like it's a hot take, but it's totally not. It's just my preference. I like this record better than a lot of the Dinosaur Jr. stuff.
Well,
it sounds more like the kind of stuff I'm into.
I would definitely say that Lou Barlow is a more accomplished songwriter than Jay Mascis.
He's a more diverse songwriter.
He has more tools.
You're right.
He can do different things. Jay does, he's a one-trick pony, and I love the trick.
Exactly.
And I also love the tone of Lou Barlow's voice. Mm-hmm. He's got sort of this Nick Drake thing going on. If you know who Nick Drake is, there's a richness to his tone, and some of this, like there's a song in here called Calf, and I just think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, once again, very lo-fi, but it's a triumph of composition.
I'm so glad that you liked this album, John, because I wasn't sure what you were going to think about it, because you're a stickler for production. You like a certain kind of sound and a certain kind of technique, I feel like.
You can say asshole.
Yeah, you're a total asshole. But I appreciate part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, because I appreciate your takes and I'm often surprised by them. But I love that you love this album, because I loved it too.
You talked about like, this is what I think Sebadoh is. And we had a lot of engagement when I compared... when I talked about Jay Mascis being the '90s version of Hendrix, right?
Yes.
Some people didn't like that.
Right.
I didn't equate them. I didn't say they were as good as I just said but that's right. The internet wants to get pissed off. Let them do it.
Hendrix was black. Jay Mascis is not black. So wrong-o.
Yeah. This these guys to me are like, they're collectively, not just Lou, because they're all three writing on this, right?
Yeah.
And they're all three interesting artists. This is like the 90s Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd, like Saucer Full of Secrets. There's this beautiful, weird, experimental thing going on here. And it even when I think it's hard to retain the attention of the listener when melody and structure goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And they are able to do it. I, for me anyway, I remained interested in what they were doing, even when it was just noise.
Yeah.
And then there were whispers and strange things happening, and they just kind of, I really thought that there was a genius at work on this album.
Yeah, it's really weird because, you know, usually when I saw how many songs there were to listen to, and I was sort of like, oh, I'm gonna be fast forwarding a lot through this stuff and clicking through, skipping songs because it's just so much. I think it's very rare for a long album to with a lot of songs to maintain your attention. But you know, I mentioned, you know, you said you mentioned Wilco just now. Jeff Tweedy's new album is a triple album. There's like, it's three discs on vinyl, and there's like, I don't know, there's like 60 songs on it or something like that. And I thought, oh Jesus, like how could it be sustained? But by the end of it, I don't want it to end. And I felt the same way about this Sebadoh album. I felt like, God, I could just keep listening to this. I wonder what they're gonna do next.
That's an interesting thing. What a feat to pull off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because
it's like impressive.
My first thought when I saw this, and when you say that to me, I think, who the fuck do you think you are that you think you have 60 interesting ideas?
Right.
But maybe you do.
Yeah.
You know, and I do think there's some filler on this record. I do think that they suffer a little bit from like what Guided by Voices suffers from. There are Guided by Voices. I actually like Sebadoh better than Guided by Voices.
Oh, for sure. If I remember, I didn't really like the Guided by Voices all that much. You know why? Because a lot of it was sort of abrasive.
There are flashes of brilliance.
This is sweet. This is like really, even when they're doing their sort of like tongue-in-cheek metal thing that they do, sometimes their growl that he does. Yeah. I just appreciate it. I think that part of it is and this is why I said that this particular month has 4 different shades of the 90s and 90s rock, because this is the like hip, sardonic, smart indie rock thing that's going to dominate in the 90s and probably become a cliche by the end of the 90s, that I was totally drawn into as a young person, because I thought these are what cool dudes sound like. They have something interesting to say.
And once again, we're only in early 91, well, midway through 91. This is a very vulnerable, very revelatory, talking about once again brokenness and sadness and broken hearts and how.
But it's not grungy.
No, and he's also very transparent about how he doesn't feel like he's cool.
Yeah.
And I once again, I just wonder how many people he influenced, or this band, I should say, because it's not just Lou. How many people they influenced, even though they never really had a lot of commercial success. But I also do feel that it's a good idea to listen to the record as it is. Just listen to the 23 songs.
Yeah.
That's the way the record was released. And then you do the second disc, because it did for me start to fall prey to a little bit of like, there's too much here. Well,
when you start to do all the remixes, and this is part of something that really I don't like about the streaming era, like on Spotify or YouTube Music or wherever you go. They often, like, the album they include like 18 songs. They don't just give you the original album.
Right.
Like I was Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I loaded onto a list that we'll be talking about in the future very soon. And, you know, the copy of it that's on Spotify has like 50 other songs, outtakes and deleted tracks and, you know, all that kind of shit. And I'm just like, I just want the original album.
Yeah, especially for what we're doing. Yeah,
it kills it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's nice to have access to that stuff if you want it, but...
it's like deleted scenes on DVDs of movies. Right. Like, I don't really need
it.
Don't
make me
unless I'm like a completist or something.
Yeah. So... This was much more true for Guided by Voices than it is for Sebadoh. But listening to all 43 of these songs as a collection, the greatness of the album was lost amongst the mediocrity of the album for me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is some of that, you know, and they knew that.
Like
they
they could have honed it down to 12 good ones.
Well, they did. They honed it down to 23.
Right.
So they cut
still a
20
lot of
songs out of
songs.
this.
Yeah.
So I felt that a little bit with it being a collection of 43 songs.
Yeah.
But there's a song on here called As the World Dies, the Eyes of God Grow Wider. You know
Yes,
that
yes.
one? We have great song
That
titles.
does like the quiet, loud thing, that song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stored Up Wonder, the Gimme Indie Rock.
Mm-hmm.
They're great songs, but you might not get to them if you don't go through some of these weird exploration things.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt
Yeah,
about
you
it.
just have to put this one on.
But Sebadoh's a great band. I'm excited. They have a couple other albums that are going to come out later in the 90s that are considered their masterpieces. So I'm excited to hear it.
My standout song, I don't know if you have one,
cool.
is that Spoiled song, because I was just like, it sounds like it sounds like Elliott Smith, but it's got all the sort of ingredients of that lo-fi indie rock that was so important in the 90s, and I think there's gonna be more of that as we move forward.
I like the song Total Peace. That's my
go
listen to that song.
That's a good one too. Yeah, there were a lot of good ones. This is a great album.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Lou Barlow, if you're listening, I owe you an apology. I should have chosen your side
every single time. Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get there with Tweety, because you're still with you're still a Jay Farrar guy, it seems like. Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
Well, I think Wilco's going to show up at some point. So is Sunvolt.
Wilco and Sunvolt. Sunvolt's first album comes out, I think, in 94, 95.
I think in an episode coming very soon, we'll be talking about the second Uncle Tupelo album. So they're
masterpiece.
Yeah. Okay.
Still feel going.
Yes. Ooh. Okay. So speaking of masterpiece, let's talk about the Spin Doctors. Okay. I say that because I don't know what you're going to say about this album, but this album is called Pocket Full of Kryptonite. Spin Doctors, I did not realize a couple things about them. So I really liked them when in the 90s because I was really young, and it was like very poppy music, and that song Two Princes is on this album. It's a huge song that dominated 90s rock radio, but maybe like VH1 almost. Like it had there's sort of a soft approach from the Spin Doctors.
It's very happy.
Adult contemporary happy music. So they're like a jam band that comes from New York City, that John Popper from Blues Traveler was originally in Spin Doctors. And talk about like too much talent for one band. John Popper splits off from them and goes and does Blues Traveler. And Spin Doctors put out some albums. This is their debut studio album. This is the one that has their two only big hits, Little Miss Can't Be Wrong and Two Princes. And again, I like this stuff in the 90s. I've never really listened to it since, but it's another part of the strains of rock and roll in the 90s was the sort of jam band thing. And that's what these guys were.
Yeah, that was a thing, you know. Mm-hmm. Dave Matthews Band and Massive Attack were still, doing those kind of things. Or was it Widespread Panic? Which one am I thinking of?
I think it's Widespread Panic. Massive Attack is the trip hop band.
That's right. Sorry. Yeah. Widespread Panic, yeah. I get those two names mixed up.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I want to start off talking about the Spin Doctors by saying, and this, if you're a musician and you've made records, and if you're watching this podcast and you're someone who's made records and dealt with the industry, you'll know what I'm talking about. Critics and record company people are fucking douchebags, most of them. There are people who have something to say that's helpful. There are producers and A&R guys who really had a talent and the love of music and knew what they were doing, but they're the exception. Most of the people I've ever encountered that were music critics, A&R guys, worked at record labels, music promotion guys, they were douchebags.
I think Mike Patton would agree
with
you.
They couldn't do it.
Right.
So they became on the periphery in any way they could be and tried to suck some of the light from people that were doing it. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting with a guy, I won't say his name, but he was an A&R guy for a huge label in the 90s, and he took us out to lunch in San Francisco, and I remember talking to this guy and thinking, if this guy likes my music, then I'm doing something wrong, because he's a fucking tool, right? So I want to say that to set up that sitting in this seat talking about stuff, I'm not a music critic. I don't want to criticize people who are making music. I want us to talk about the history of things and how it's interesting to what we're talking about. And I want to, give opinions, but I'm not a music critic. So having said all that,
yes,
Spin Doctors are terrible.
I love that setup.
They are a decent band. They can all play their instruments pretty well. They know how to, kind of write a hook. But to me, there was a type of music that was coming out at this time. It was made by white college kids who were dabbling in funk music and reggae. And
talk about easily parodied. This is that category.
Now, I have to say, this band
they're lame.
Their bass player is like a legit jazz dude. But this is just soulless white frat boy rock to me, and it goes kind of along the lines of like Hootie and the Blowfish, and
totally,
and to a lesser extent, Counting Crows. I get that.
Oh yeah,
there's something there, I guess, with the Counting Crows, but
well, you say there's something there. The something there is they all wrote hits.
They did write hits.
Not that means anything, but
I mean. I often think that some of the worst music in the world is popular music. So you'll never go broke underestimating the tastes of the masses, right?
Right.
But this is repetitive. It's toothless. It's so Caucasian, and it's.
You don't like the scatting, the deba dabba 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 deba dabba dabba.
Thankfully, he only did it once. This fucking yabba dabba doo.
It's such a product of its time in a lot of ways. Like it really just, we put this on, this sounds like the early 90s to me.
If they would have been a band in the early 80s, I know these guys would have tried to do reggae. Like back when we were starting as a band, when I was just like 16, 17, all the little bars and clubs around here, all these white dudes with their baseball caps on backwards were trying to play reggae.
Right.
And talking with Jamaican accents, and it was just gross. The drum beat, like most of the songs on this album have the exact same drum beat. There's a few times when but they are, to me, they're a perfect example of what I call the overbite chicken neck dance. You can just see all these white guys going,
oh yeah,
put two friends here before you. Yeah. It's not my thing.
I knew 100% when I was listening to this album, this is not John's thing.
No, they desperately want to get funky,
yeah,
and it doesn't ever happen.
Well, I want to comment a little bit on what you said about not being a critic, because I agree. I don't think on this show that's why I'm always sort of joking about like, oh, this is 3 out of 5 stars or 4 out of 5 stars, because that's not what we're doing. I think we're just sort of like, I just want to like kind of catalog what happened in the 90s and try to put it together in terms of figuring out all the trends in music, what was happening, but you can't help but have an opinion about this stuff.
But let me tell you something else. They released this album in 91, and then they went out and toured for a year before anything broke. And then they had a couple of big hits, sold 5 million copies. I mean, they did it. They were a band. They worked hard. They went out and did it. I don't want to knock them.
No, and I was reading an interview with the dude, the main guy. What's his name?
Chris. His name's Chris something or other.
Yeah, it is Chris Barron. And he just like lives in New York now with his wife and daughter and cat. And he's like,
I'm sure he's a lovely person.
He doesn't tour at all. They're kind of done. And in the interview, his attitude was sort of like, I'm just glad that we had some hits and that people enjoyed them. And sometimes I get to sing these silly songs in front of people. He's got a sort of wry attitude about it. That was cool.
I'm sure he's good for him.
What I was going to say is that I follow this. I subscribe to this Substack of this author George Saunders, who's a really well-known novel and short story writer, and he does these exercises where he wants people to sort of think about art and writing, and one of the things he was talking about in his Substack that I thought applied to what you just said is he puts like 3 paintings in front of you, and he'll ask, I want you to write about which one you think is the best painting, and then I want you to write about which one is your favorite painting. And if they're different, explain why. And I think that best versus favorite thing is partly what we're doing on this show.
That's why I wanted to say they're a decent band. They can all play. And
I would say that Spin Doctors are neither best nor favorite for me.
The problem with this, there's a couple problems here. So, like that song "Little Miss Can't Be Wrong," right? It's a big hit. Those riffs that he's playing in the beginning, that's like the first thing I learned in guitar class. They're so so just perfunctory, basic,
yeah.
and of course it's a huge hit. A lot of young white guys at this time desperately wanted to be hippies, like to be of a different era for,
Well, they toured with Fish and stuff like
right,
that.
right.
They're part of that whole thing.
But then they tried to be a few things, and in my eyes, they didn't pull any of it off. And there's a song called 40 or 50. It's the longest song on the album. I think it's like 6 minutes long, and they're trying to jam, and it just goes nowhere. It just falls real flat to me. Chris Barron he is a singer of limited gifts. You know
who he sounded like? I don't know if you picked this up. He sounded like Sting sometimes to me, which is
Sting. If you're watching, I didn't say anything.
Sting, I owe you an apology.
He's a singer of very, very limited gifts. He doesn't have a big range. He's a very thin tone. Like you said, he tries to, and it's just, no, don't stop that. I think even he went, okay, I'm going to stop that. So the last two songs of the record.
Yes.
It starts out, there's a song called, I forget the name of the song. Okay, let me talk about three songs. There's a song called Off My Line, and it starts out with this sort of admirable, like a real poor man's Curtis Mayfield maybe type of thing. Like the song Freddie's Dead by Curtis Mayfield. Like there's a vibe to it, but then they go to the chorus and it's just this generic schlocky rock stuff. There's a song called How Could You Want Him When You Could Have Me or something like that.
Yes. Yep.
And this is where Chris Barron's more doing like a singer-songwriter thing. And he's referencing some authors and talking about Shakespeare. Like he says, what did he say? I'm not going to remember the lyrics right now.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
He says Guildenstern and Rosencrantz.
Yes.
And
I noticed that.
He's making some literary references and doing the singer-songwriter thing. And the band just falls into this totally generic, uninteresting stuff behind him. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Then the next song, the last song on the album, Shinbone Alley, the band sets up like a respectable groove. It's kind of something interesting happening. And then he can't come up with anything to sing over it. It's just this blathering. There's no, so I think they are swinging above their pay grade. A lot like that. They just, they're a serviceable band. They're playing music that they don't really know how to play. It's like I remember, it wasn't my teacher. I have a very good friend who went to Columbia, and he said he had a writing teacher who said, write what you know, otherwise you'll write a caricature.
Yeah, right.
There's the movie called An Innocent Man with Tom Selleck in it. It's hilarious. It's one of the greatest comedies of all time, and it's a drama because they cast the actor F. Murray Abraham as this prison tough guy named Virgil Caine. And he has to say things like, don't talk out the side of your neck when I'm trying to do you a solid.
That's a great line.
Ain't life a motherfucker?
Yeah.
And like he's supposed to be this tough, hardened prison dude. And this guy, F. Murray Abraham has never gotten a speeding ticket. He's just so clean. He's the wrong guy for the role. And whoever wrote the script went, I'll bet this is what people talk like in jail. There's just no authenticity to it. And I felt like with the funky jam band stuff, I think they're pretending at it. I don't think they really know how to do it. So that's what it felt like to me.
What's funny is in that interview, Chris Barron said that, he looks at Fish doing these 7-hour shows at Madison Square Garden, 13 sold out shows in a row over 13 nights they do. And he's like, we could never do that. We were never able. He admits like we're not able to do that kind of thing.
But they had a couple of hits and had some fun and made a lot of people happy and made a lot of money. So
what would Mike Patton say about Spin Doctors? I think he would be a lot less polite than we have been.
I would love to hear Mike Patton. If you watch this show, get in the comments and tell us what you would say.
Let us know. Sound off. Okay, so we're putting that one in the toilet. Goodbye, Spin Doctors. But I think Blues Traveler will be making an appearance at some point here too. Okay, well at least the Blues Traveler guy can really sing. I feel like he
can play the fucking harmonica. Dude. He plays on this album, doesn't he?
Does he? I don't know.
John Popper's a beast on that harmonica.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one more album we want to talk about by a band that you mentioned on this show before, but now you deny remembering
No, I
this at
remember
all.
where it came from.
Yeah.
It's that compilation, that famous compilation that sort of
Yes.
put Seattle on the map. They were on it. It was like the Malfunction and Soundgarden
Right.
and Green River and yeah.
And this band Skin Yard.
Yeah.
This is their fourth studio album. It came out in August '91. It's called 1,000 Smiling Knuckles. It's actually their last album. They broke up. Their members are sort of like you mentioned. They're sort of like these Seattle bands shifted around a lot and went to different places. And Matt Cameron is the drummer for this band Skin Yard, and he ends up in Pearl Jam, right?
Well, no, he was already in Soundgarden at this time.
Okay.
He was Soundgarden before that. This is a project
So
that
you
he
know
was
that
involved
history
in.
better than I do.
And then this is also the guy that and then after him was a guy named Jason Finn.
Mm-hmm.
There might have been another drummer in between for Skin Yard. Jason Finn, I knew Jason. He was in a band called Love Battery.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
I've heard of that band.
I think it's
Maybe 'cause
Bruce
you mentioned
Fairweather was in Mother Love Bone. And we had the same management as them, and we used to play shows with them once in a while. And then Jason left Love Battery and was a drummer in another band we'll talk about called Presidents of the United States of America.
Oh yeah, I saw an interview with the guy from Presidents of the USA that they're doing children's music now.
Oh, they're perfect for
Yeah,
that.
and he's like, and he was saying that like I kind of, you talk about do what you know. He's like, I kind of realized, it was a really fascinating interview because he was like, I kind of realized that the like sort of like snotty hipster thing I was trying to bring to our music in the band, I was trying to be cool a little bit. And like when I make kids music, I don't have to think about being cool.
I
We just
get
sing
it.
songs about popsicles and eating oranges and shit like that. And he loves it. And he seems really happy. And
Well,
I thought, like, that's perfect.
They kind of did that in the Presidents of the United States of America,
right,
too.
yeah,
Millions of peaches.
Right,
Peaches
exactly.
for free.
It's already a kid's song.
Yeah.
Okay, so this album, 1,000 Smiling Knuckles, I never heard Skin Yard before.
Me either.
Just to describe it, it's it sounds like grunge music. It's almost more. It sounded to me like more on the metal end of grunge. It
Yeah.
was heavy and hard. The only thing that was really notable about it to me, honestly, was the drumming.
Oh, the drumming's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a song on here called Head Swill. No, I'm sorry. It's called A River Throat.
Yes.
And because the drumming is, and Matt Cameron is so fucking good. I always rave about him.
Yeah,
He's
I know
such
you're
a
a
great
fan.
drummer, man. Neil Peart of Rush said that Matt Cameron was his favorite young drummer back in like the early 90s.
That's interesting. Wow.
That's a high compliment,
No
high,
shit.
high praise,
Imagine
right?
Neil Peart saying that you're a great drummer.
dude.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you, but I didn't hate this record.
No.
They didn't get any attention. They never ended up on Sub Pop, even though the lead singer guy, he's a producer that produced quite a bit of famous music in that scene.
He's dead.
Is he?
Yeah, Ben McMillan. He died in 2008. I was reading about it. He was 46 years old, died of diabetes. So you might be thinking of another member of the band.
Who are the other members?
Let's see. Is it
Chris-
Jack and Dino?
Jack
Daniel?
and Dino. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of. Sorry. What did Jack and Dino? Was he the guitar player?
Yeah, guitar,
I'm
producer,
sorry.
engineer.
Yeah, he produced some big projects. But I thought it was a cool record. It has as much in common with Jane's Addiction as it does with the Seattle
It sounded
sound.
like Alice in Chains at times to me,
A couple
too.
times. There's
Yeah.
a song on here called "Burn a Hole," and I went, "Oh, that's
Yes.
kind of like a Alice in Chains feel to it." But I thought there were some good ideas here. The drumming was great. I think it fits nicely into what was happening then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see why it didn't get as much attention as Tad and other bands like that.
Right, yeah. But Tad didn't really get that much attention, it seems like. I mean, they did, I guess, at the time, but they didn't last. I mean, I had never heard of Tad.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think this sound? Because I was thinking about this sound and this attitude, and I was like, the Lou Barlow attitude and sensibility is just more me. When I hear Lou Barlow when I hear these guys, I'm sort of like, I recognize it as what was cool at the time, but it's just also I don't really identify with the attitudes of the grunge thing. But do you think that grunge sound is sort of over, it's sort of isolated back? It seems like bands don't really.
It's of its time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because it's a dated sound. I think that it's because of I actually believe it's because of the way people like to listen to music now, and the way people like to record music now. But I totally relate to a band like Skin Yard sonically because that's what I was doing. That I was I was in a heavy band. We weren't super heavy, but we were playing 2 guitars, bass, drums. I was on heroin,
Right.
so I was super depressed and on drugs and trying to tour around the country. And so I can connect to it. I feel like this band maybe suffered from an identity crisis. There's no particular sound they have, and I would particularly say the singer sometimes, like, he did this growly thing that reminded me a little bit of like Skinny Puppy or something, almost an industrial low, scary, not really singing, low speaking.
Yep.
And then other times,
that's what made me think metal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then other times I thought he sounded very Seattle, know. And then other times I thought he sounded kind of like Peter Murphy in the Bauhaus phase. And then other times there's a song on here called Jesus Christ, and I'm like, he sounds like Ozzy in Black Sabbath,
right. I was kind of laughing at it.
So I think that there are a couple other bands we've talked about like this. They didn't really have an identity.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's why they didn't hit.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you talk about Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Those are probably the big Seattle bands.
Mm-hmm.
You know them as soon as you hear them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's them.
Right. Oh,
they're
totally.
very distinctive.
Yeah. With Skin Yard, I'm kind of like, they didn't have it didn't really stand out for me.
Do you know why Matt Cameron left the band?
No.
I don't either.
I wonder what happened. Get him on the phone?
I wonder what happened. I mean,
Matt Cameron, sound off in the comments.
Because Matt Cameron, if you're watching, I think you're a great drummer. And sound off in the comments. I feel like maybe his presence made the industry view this as his side band, and not take it seriously.
I can see that.
Yeah,
it's got a really cool cover. And 1,000 Smiling Knuckles is kind of a cool name for an album. But yeah, Skin Yard is one of those forgotten bands of the Seattle era. Okay. So before we go, I saw a thread on Reddit that I laughed when I saw it because it made me think of some of the conversations we had. I wonder what you would think of this. Pete Townsend in one of the guitar magazines, Pete Townsend of The Who, for those that are listening and don't know who I'm talking about, he says that he likes REM, and it surprised people. And he said that I would trade 150 Def Leppards for one REM. And I thought, wow, I'd like to ask John what he thinks about that. I don't know if you're a Def Leppard guy at all.
Well, so I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's a taste thing.
It is.
I think Def Leppard has some cool songs early on.
For sure.
They became like the poster child for overbloated, shitty, overproduced rock in the 80s with stuff like dude, I've had to sing Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Yeah.
It's a piece of shit song. It's such a first of all, I used to introduce it by
Def
saying,
Leppard song?
"Oh yeah,
it is."
And I used to introduce that song and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, because you demanded it, we're going to play a song featuring one of the most sophisticated sexual metaphors in all of music. Think about it,
Right.
So, Pour Some Sugar on Me and like Animal and you get hysterical. They were very formulaic. It's like what Aerosmith was doing in the 80s. It
totally is a taste thing. You say REM versus Def Leppard. It's sort of like a lot of people in the comments were saying, I don't like to praise one band by insulting another.
I agree with that, actually.
And yet, that's what we do. I mean, and I say we as a culture and we as a people who discuss pop culture. It's often talked about in that way of comparison. I mean, what is the big thing of like that we've talked about on this podcast many times about like Guns N' Roses versus Nirvana and things like that.
Yeah.
Like we're just sort of like for me, and maybe this is what I can think about moving forward as we think about more and more albums. Is it helps me define sort of my own sensibility, and that was really clear on these albums this week for me. Like listening to Lou Barlow, I was like, oh, this is totally my kind of shit. Skin Yard, not so much. Spin Doctors, definitely not. Although when I was 14, I really liked those songs. And Mr. Bungle just seems like something I admire from afar a little bit.
Don't blame yourself
Yeah.
for liking Spin Doctors. It was being fed to you, and you're a middle class white guy.
Yeah,
it's for you. So I agree with you, and we get our egos wrapped up in it too. So there's an old saying: comparison is the thief of joy. And we go dark when we compare. I do this all the time preparing for this show. I resist, and I never am successful completely, but I resist saying, "Oh, this sounds like this."
Right.
Like I do think there's some value in saying this maybe sounds like it was influenced by this. Like when we talk about Lou Barlow influencing Elliott Smith, I think there's some value in talking about that in terms of timelines and history. But I don't just want to say, here's this band, they sound like this, this, and this. Move on. We get our egos wrapped up in it. Pete Townsend could have just said, "I love REM."
Right.
He didn't have to throw Def Leppard under the bus.
I know. It sounds maybe it's personal.
You step in and say, "I approve, I don't approve." And we all do that too. You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a good lesson. Thank you, Pete Townsend, for that. And thank you, John, for this discussion. We have a monster month.
I'm glad that we had a kind of a light one this one because we're getting ready for a biggie.
Yeah. September 91, like I mentioned, is going to have three different episodes, 4 albums each, because it's just an unbelievable storm of great albums that come out for whatever reason in September 91. I want to know why. I don't know why.
I will tell you something. I went and watched our episode from 90 in September. In 90 it was also the first time we had to split it up.
Isn't that interesting?
Maybe they just released, but is it something about kids going back to school or something?
It could be.
I don't know.
But I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 comes out the same month as Nevermind, the same month as Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I did not realize that.
I'm so surprised to learn that Blood Sugar Sex Magic and Nevermind came out in the same month.
Yeah, like a week away from each other.
Interesting.
All right, we'll be back with more. Thank you, John.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, listeners. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.